Hello! Today I'd like to tell you of the way I have got this shape of a bag. I would call it a meadow bag. I like it performed in this very way, with flowers. That's why a meadow. A meadow can be different, a pink one, the one with ox-eye daisies, some other kinds. Actually, you can use some different topics, not only flowers. Here I have tried a marine variety of a bag, and I like it too. The bag turns out rather capacious. It is a bit too rigid for a bag, but I have tried it with different holders, and it is very convenient for use. I use them constantly. I carry them in turns, one bag, then another one. I like this shape very much, so I'd like to share the way I make it with you. I have gone shopping so much in search of a form. I was even glad when I thought I'd found a bucket of required shape. It is a bucket for paper. But then I've noticed that the widening was not sufficient. So I've taken the idea from Irina Openkina, thanks to her for the idea. She was applying it to baskets. At first it seemed to me too hard and laborious to make special cardboard models, but then I've tried and there is nothing difficult about it, and you get the required shape of widening. Because no form I have used could provide me with the shape required. So now I'd like to show you the way I do. To visualize the process, I have taken my form to pieces in order to show you the way I assemble it. I take a bucket, weight it with packs of grain, leave the holder, and then I take a sheet of regular soft cardboard. Well, maybe you can moisten rigid cardboard as well, but to me it seems easier this way. I mark the center and apply this piece of cardboard right to the middle. I have stuck painter's tape beforehand. And now I apply it like this and make sure that the angle coincides with the opposite part. That's all. I have stuck it. Everything coincides. Now check if it coincides with the center. Correct if it doesn't. Check the angle. This way. Correct. I need an angle a little blunter. Something like this. And stick. That's all. The form is ready. The only thing to make it easier to weave, I fill these gaps with creased paper. You can also fix it a little more with sticky tape, but for me it is enough to direct the tubes of the base to get the article widening at the sides. Then we weave an oval bottom. We know how to form an oval bottom already. I have shown it to you in the previous lesson. And then we lift the tubes. I don't make any special transition from the bottom to the walls because I prefer smooth passing in basket-like bags like this. Caskets look better with transition, while for bags I prefer smooth passing from bottom to the walls. Then I weave 5-6 rows with dark tubes. Then I make a 3 or 4 tube rope, in this case 3 tube rope, to mark the border between the weaving and decoupage flower area. And then weave 10-11 rows in the technique of regular rope. And then there follows an interesting stage. I have woven 10 rows with white tubes. And since now I will start shaping the rays using the technique of incomplete rows. I mark the side tubes this way and start weaving with turns. I weave up to a clothespin, I don't bother myself too much about joints in this case, because they will be hidden by decoupage anyway. Turn. I try to press here tightly. And then, very carefully, trying to avoid big gaps, I weave in the opposite direction. This technique of incomplete rows raises the front side of an article, while the side parts remain somewhat slumped. For some bags I have made 2 raises like this. Look, here I have marked the extreme tube. Now we turn like this. And continue weaving a kind of triangle. So now in the second row we look where we used to turn in the previous row. You see, here it is. This time we embrace the previous tube. Each time we leave one more tube unembraced. Once again. You reach the turn. Here there were 2 poles. We lead the working tube behind the second one. We are getting kind of 2 floors here. Every time we leave one more pole untwined. Look, here there was an extreme tube. Lead round the previous one. This way. Lengthen and continue, each time leaving one more tube unengaged. We are completing the story. The technique of incomplete rows makes it possible to shape a bag like this, with the top parts lifted and sides bulged, both because we have modeled the required shape with the help of cardboard and because there are more rows woven here than at the sides. So I have embraced the 2 central poles, there is nowhere further to raise. Now weave in circle. Pass on to incomplete rows at the opposite side. Repeat all the same actions for the opposite side. Mark 1, 2, and weave in the same way the second part. After we have woven incomplete rows, here I weave 10 rows more in circle. So we have woven 10 rows with white tubes. Then we have woven the incomplete rows. And then 10 rows more in circle again. As a result, we have got the shape like this. There are 5-6 rows more left to weave with dark tubes, like here. Before them a 3-tube rope and 6 rows with brown tubes. As a result, you get such a basket. The way you make the edge is not essential, because different details are emphasized in this case. So if you make a volumetric edge, it will only distract attention. You'd better make it simple. Now our task is to hide this stripe we have got because of incomplete rows. On this bag I have solved the problem by adding some applique. I have woven it in the technique of cotton weave, not rope. But anyway, there are gaps at the points of turning. In order to mask them, you can make an application like this. But because in our case we are making a meadow bag, in order to make decoupage more or less smooth, I propose you the following. At first, I take white remainders of decoupage. Decoupage napkins are 3-layered, and we use only one colored layer. And there are such pieces left, 2 white layers. Or you can use regular white napkins. And like papier-mâché, I cover with several layers to smooth the surface. I apply a few white layers at first. Afterwards, we decoupage it with the motifs we have chosen. I try my best to mask these places with gaps especially thoroughly. But to make it look more or less smooth, I stick napkins to the whole surface. Actually, I like a one-colored bag like this too. But it is summertime now, and everything colorful appeals to me. When, if not in summer, can you use such bright colors and flowers? That's why I choose making decoupage. After we have smoothed the uneven places created by incomplete weaving, you choose the pattern. Actually, I have chosen the napkin beforehand, but I'd like to show you what kind of napkins are good for such bags to my mind. I would call such patterns meadows, just like a meadow bag. I mean, you don't cut separate motifs from napkins, but take the whole napkin with a meadow-like pattern. I have taken all the extra layers off. In our case it fits perfectly. And you apply decoupage carefully. At first to the edges, afterwards cut the excessive paper. This time my meadow will be orange summer looking. I also plan to make a sunflower meadow. This way, we decoupage carefully. You will just add motifs you are short of afterwards. As for the excessive paper, you just tear it away carefully. It is the way the bag looks after decoupage. I have covered top and bottom with cool glue mixed with water. And so far, while the article is still wet, you can correct the shape a little. Besides, I plan a clasp at the top. maybe similar to this one. Look, you're already familiar with this technique. You make a kind of a cake with tubes. Stick either a piece of cord or leather ribbon and make a bead like this. And this way I have got a fastener. One can make something similar for this bag. I will work out the holders for this bag, and only after that I will clearly see what kind of a clasp is required here. As for the holders, I'd like to talk about them separately. In the next tutorial I will tell you about my experiments, what I have tried, and I am going to share my thoughts on this topic with you.